Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. The United Auto Workers victory, the tentative agreement that the UAW has agreed to with GM, Ford, Stellantis, which is now being voted on at all three companies among the workers, is historic. To give you an update now on terms of Ford, according to the publicly available data, about 15 of Ford's plants have voted so far. The total is a 74% yes vote and 27% no. So almost 3/4 have voted yes to the tentative agreement, 27% no. Still a significant amount of locations need to vote, but so far about 15 plants, overwhelming support for the tentative agreement. But I wanted to go into the ripple effects of this deal and also examine the before and after for ghouls like Jim Cramer of CNBC. Remember, Jim Cramer was not a fan of this approach by Shawn Fain and the United Auto Workers. Let's take it down memory lane. He was comparing Fain to Trotsky and other communists just a few weeks ago.
Shawn Fain, the guy who runs the UAW, I find him frightening. This man studied Trotsky. I gotta tell you, studied Trotsky before pre-ice picking era. No, Gino can't do it because this guy who runs the UAW reminds me of Earl Browder. I mean, he's like a longshoreman union. The stevedores.
That was Jim Cramer, who represents most of Wall Street and a lot of corporate America. He was not a fan of this approach, the stand-up strike, Trotsky, Earl Browder, communists, just comparing Fain and the UAW to the most radical historical figures for the crime of demanding that these billion-dollar companies open up their wallets, treat the workers with dignity and respect, give the workers their fair share. Well, today, or yesterday, excuse me, he was singing quite a different tune. Let's take a look. Jim Cramer, CNBC, reacting to the UAW victory.
The UAW was underestimated the whole way because Fain just beat them everywhere. It was very much guerrilla action. It was very smart. They were completely, they were outgained at every turn. I mean, it was almost like that Fain was a great NFL coach who really figured out all the weaknesses of the other team and just came in and blew them away. They were blitzing. They were doing everything right. I mean, they had like linebacker and corner blitzes and safety blitzes, and they like the other guys like I love Farley and I love Barr, and I think that they were, wow, what happened? They were in the wow, what happened camp, and when the game was over, it was just a real beatdown.
Wow, from communism to beatdown. From Trotsky to a beatdown. Holy cow. I wonder who underestimated. And to be clear, obviously, I don't hide. I'm a fan of Shawn Fain's, but it wasn't just Shawn Fain, as he would say. I mean, this was tons and tons of UAW leadership that got these deals. 25% wage increases when you factor in the additional cost of labor, the inflation cost of living adjustment that was reenacted. Basically, they're making 30% more wages over the course of this deal. But Jim Cramer, he was the one underestimating them, in my opinion. CNBC, the corporate crowd, you had CNBC, local media in Michigan claiming that, they're not going to get what they're asking for. Cost of living, that's done. Maybe they'll get to, 12, 13% wage increases, but what they're asking for, 40%, which I didn't think they were going to get, but they got 25%. Not going to happen. The battery plants, putting them into the master agreement, not a chance. Well, seems that changed very quickly. And Shawn Fain responded to Mr. Cramer and his current change of tune. This is from Shawn Fain. This is what happens when the working class uses their power to stand up for their well-deserved share of the economy that the working class creates and drives. Workers have the power to move the economy or shut it down! Exclamation point. I want to also show you Fain was on Rachel Maddow's show. Kind of surprised, actually, that Rachel Maddow covered this. Rarely credit her, but credit where credit is due. I thought what Fain said was pretty powerful on the Rachel Maddow show last night, and also goes to these ripple effects that I'm talking about. Toyota workers have now seen a wage increase as a result of the UAW's auto campaign. You're now seeing Tesla workers in Germany got a 4% wage increase because Elon Musk is a little scared. Look at what these UAW workers just got. We better treat our workers better. We better give them a little bit more of the moolah, or they might try to unionize. Let's take a listen to Shawn Fain.
There's this massive chasm between the billionaire class and the working class. And, when those things get out of balance, we need to turn it upside down. When 26 billionaires have as much wealth as half of humanity, that's a crisis. And it's our issues, whether it's UAW, it's working class issues, whether you're union or not. Everyone identifies with what's going on right now. People in unions and working class people that aren't in unions, are literally scraping to get by. They're working 7 days a week, 12 and 16 hours a day, multiple jobs, not to save money, just to scrape to get by. And so it's time. I think it's way past time, and it's up to organized labor to lead that movement. And I'm really proud of the work we've done and other unions are doing right now, standing up for the working class. And we've already seen the fruits of that. We negotiated record contracts at the big three, and within a week, you saw Toyota reduce their progression 4 years for their employees and give them 9% pay increases. We call that the UAW bump. And that's what happens. And when those people become members of the UAW, they'll get even more. And so that's what this is all about. It's about raising all tides.
Let me ask you about that directly. If you have anything you'd like to say tonight here on television to Tesla, to Honda, Toyota, and other non-union car companies that are making cars in the United States. As you mentioned, Toyota seems to have given a UAW bump to their non-UAW member workers, presumably to try to preempt any enthusiasm among Toyota workers to try to get the same deal by joining UAW. Do you have anything you'd like to say to those car makers right now in terms of what's going to happen here next?
Well, I look at the migration of my grandparents back in the 30s and 40s from the South, where coming out of a depression, they moved north to union jobs, and it changed their lives. And we're getting back to setting that standard now. And so, we've had throughout this process, because of the energy that's around this campaign, literally we've had hundreds of workers from all over the South, all these non-union companies reach out to us about organizing. They want a piece of this. And that's the comparison I look at with my grandparents' generation. Was they saw a better way of life, and we set the standard. Now we're back to setting the standard again. People want to be a part of that. So, we're reaching out to members, and we are in the process of planning our next steps for organizing. We've revamped our organizing department, and we are locked and loaded, and we're coming for them. Those workers at Tesla, Hyundai, Nissan, anywhere, Toyota, they're no different than us. Working class people, we all have the same issues. We want to have a wage where we can have a sustainable life. Not just live to work, but work to have a good living. And it's went too far gone the other way in the past. So, I really believe we're going to have a lot of success. And I believe those members want to join the union. I think once they do, and they step aside from the fear tactics and the scare tactics these companies will employ upon them, when they see that benefit, there's no going back.
Just as an aside, unrelated to Shawn Fain on MSNBC, for you, scholars of cable news history, MSNBC was the same network that fired Ed Schultz, who died a few years ago. He was a great union, pro-union media personality. Rest in peace, Ed Schultz. MSNBC fired Ed Schultz years ago because he was covering in a critical way the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal, and basically the only person on MSNBC covering it and calling out Obama, who obviously MSNBC loved, and Biden for trying to ram the TPP down organized labor's throats, which, if you are a union person watching, if the TPP would have passed, that would have been the final nail in the coffin, in my opinion, of organized labor. So it's very rich that MSNBC is suddenly, we're pro-union because it's in vogue now. MSNBC has been anti-union, just like CNN and the rest of them. I digress. But what Shawn Fain is talking about is what I was saying while covering this on the road for 25 days. We covered the first 25 days of the strike on the ground, thanks to you. Shawn Fain used a very important word when on the road during this strike: power. We have the power. We have to leverage our power. And it's like any good sports coach or motivational speaker or anyone in your life that has motivated you or been in a leadership position over you. As important as tactics are and strategy in sports or anything like else, equally important is, can you lead and make people believe? Part of the problem is we've had a lot of politicians in this country, and today is election day, who are verbally gifted, Obama, this and that, who make you believe and then sell you down the river. They don't follow through, or they betray you. But I think Fain made a lot of demoralized, cynical, checked out labor members, not just in UAW, but elsewhere, believe that we actually have more power than we've been told for years from the UAW and other bosses who said, hey, we got to take what we can get. Live to fight another day. And he talked about, we need to leverage our power. We need to understand the power we have. Now, was all three of these deals perfect? Of course not. I don't think they go far enough in terms of pensions, retiree benefits, and other things. But in terms of wages, cost of living, reducing the time it takes to go from a temporary worker to full-time worker, the amount of time it takes to get full pay. I mean, 3 months ago, I don't think any expert in this industry or even a lot of people that are pro-union would have thought you'd get all of this. And previous union heads at UAW probably would have taken the 10% wage increase that was first offered from these corporate ghouls at GM, Stellantis, and Ford. So I think Fain, at Status Coup, we've been talking about for years, we need some type of general strike. I don't have the answer for how to make it happen, but that's what we need. We need people to organize economically. Well, maybe what you're seeing in terms of organizing from UAW is the beginning of something like that. A general strike through the resurgence of organized labor. That might be what we need. And remember, it's not a coincidence. As union membership declined, income inequality soared in this country. Look at that from the early 80s. See that blue line? All the wealthy people stealing your money? Well, that happened as unions were battered and decimated. That is what we need to turn around. I also want to show you, because I think it's very, very important, and it kind of shows you the long game, the long-term thinking that Fain and the UAW are thinking right now. This is from the New York Times. Headline: UAW strike gains could reverberate beyond autos, laying out tentative contract agreements to end a 6-week wave of walkouts at Ford Motor. The UAW president made an unusual pitch to other labor unions. We invite unions around the country to align your contract expirations with our own. If we're truly going to take on the billionaire class and rebuild the economy so that it starts to work for the benefit of the many and not the few, then it's most important that we not only strike, but we strike together. That's for 2028, when the UAW's contract will end pretty much in the spring. He is trying to organize other industries, other sectors to align their contract with the UAW. So it's not just an auto strike. Maybe it's a steel worker strike at the same time, a healthcare worker strike at the same time, Amazon worker. I mean, we could go down the list. Can you imagine that? And if there's one thing you could say that Biden has done that I think has been a good thing, whether he did it, deserves credit for it or not, the National Labor Relations Board under Biden has been strengthened. They have actually been more pro-worker. They have punished Amazon, Starbucks, and other companies for their union busting. Who knows if Biden will still be the president then? But at the moment, the NLRB is stronger and more pro-worker. So in 2028, when the UAW's contract is up and potentially other contracts are up, if they align with the expiration of the UAWs, you could have a whole lot of major industries and companies on strike at the same time, and imagine the cross solidarity. I know that's not necessarily what everybody wants to hear, because we want the system, the United Corporations of America, toppled right now. But as I always say, the system did not become corrupt overnight, and we're not going to really dismantle a corrupt government that is marked by legalized bribery overnight. But I'll tell you, between Jim Cramer's extreme makeover and Fain in the UAW forcing Toyota, Tesla to sweeten the pot for workers, it is a good day in America for a lot of workers in key industries.